Are you ready? I'll admit.
Yes. Trying to do two things at once here. Morning, Ashley. Like that. There we go. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes for other people to come in, and then we will get started. I should not be on mute. Am I on the wrong microphone? Let's see. No, I should be on the right microphone.
No, you're good. You're not muted.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Ashley. Well, let's get started for the person who came on time.
Alex is here too. He's just off to the side.
Oh, okay. So he gets to listen to all this. Awesome.
I'm eating pancakes.
Eating pancakes. That's a good idea. I like that. This could be a private workshop for you. That'll be fun.
Yeah, where is everybody?
I don't know. 20 people signed up. I don't see anybody.
20? Holy smoke.
20, yeah. I don't expect 20 to show up because that's not the way the world works, but more than one at least.
Yeah, really.
Although somebody tried to join at 8 o'clock this morning because they're in the UK. I don't know what time they thought it was going to be because that's not even the translation from 11 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Yeah. Let's see. No, that's not it. All right, well, welcome anyways. You can introduce yourself in the chat so we know where you're joining us from today, and I'm going to honor our valuable time and get started anyhow. Type a yes in the chat if after trying some trick or technique to get your kids to listen, you have felt frustrated out of your mind or as a failure as a parent. You're from Maple Ridge? I know you're from Maple Ridge. I don't know what that is. Have you tried everything and still have a child or a bunch of children who push back, resist, and forget everything they're supposed to do? Before we jump in the whole way, big yes. We just have a couple of things to keep things running smoothly. I'm boiling to death, so I'm taking off my lovely jacket. Please add your questions as we go along in the chat to make sure they're answered at the end. And if you don't want to ask questions in front of everyone, please feel free to change everyone in the pull down list to only me. I will read it anonymously when we get to the Q&A. Maybe I'll say that again for this new person. Brianna's just joined us. Please let us know where you're from, joining us from today, Brianna. Please keep your cameras on so I can see your lovely faces, and mute your mics to reduce the background sounds to stop from interfering with everyone's hearing. You'll need a piece of paper or a journal and something to write with, or a fresh document to take notes and do the exercise. Do take notes or screenshots or both. Also, I am assuming you have children, so please know that they are not distracting to me. Not to have them in the frame and not while they're making noise if you're participating in discussions. I expect kids to be visible and childish, so relax and let them be themselves while we continue. There will be a replay, so if you miss anything, you will catch it later. Make sure you stay on to the end so you can grab your copy of the bonus checklist, 7 biggest parenting fails that will backfire and create resistance, no matter how popular they are. Today, you're going to discover the key steps to getting to live with happy, cooperative kids. And I mean yours, not shopping around to replace your kids with somebody else's, and not using threats or bribes because they don't really work. I'm going to give you a ton of tips and perspective on encouraging cooperation and helping kids return to their natural, happy selves, the delights you've seen glimpses of, or maybe even whole ages of, but that seem to come and go without warning. So you will know the direction to go in to find your happy, peaceful family, the one you have now, not someone you've lost in the forest along the way. When my first baby was a few months old, I met up with my cousin and her husband. And after we oohed and awed over how adorable babies are for a little while, the conversation turned to parenting advice. Her husband said, you can't read any parenting books because they all have their own opinions and nobody agrees with each other, and you can't do everything. I have been a voracious reader since I discovered the magic of other worlds and more information that is pressed between two covers and stacked neatly on library shelves. To say that I read all of the parenting books is putting it mildly. I also read all the sci-fi books written before about 1980, everything from Agatha Christie and Terry Pratchett, and math, psychology, neurobiology, physics, history, anthropology, home repair, renovation, computers, medicine, nutrition, organization, and quite a lot about cooking. Now I am an exceptionally weird cook. I rarely follow the whole recipe for anything, and I've been known to try all manner of oddities from all over the world. But the parenting books. Oh, if you want a short history and behaviorism, parenting books are your library. Something about kids makes people seem eager to grab hold of the #1 way to get dogs to drool. And it's been impossible to shake it off, even decades after Skinner and his naive behavior theories were smashed to pieces. Yes, you can get a dog to drool on cue. No, you can't bribe a child into thinking doing the dishes is fun. But back to my story. When my kids were little, I tried quite a lot of the very convincing sounding threats and bribes advice, including timeouts and sticker charts and dessert after dinner, because they're better than spanking and taking away their food, right? I remember being 2, I remember being 3, and I remember my reaction to all of those. And then I was standing there watching my beautiful, perfect daughter's open and eager face shut down and turn away after I successfully got her to do something I wanted her to do. I'm not always a fast learner, but that reaction hit me hard. It crushed something delicate and precious. She had been there right with me, connected and sweet, and then suddenly she was gone, shut off in an instant. Uh-oh. How did I do that? And more importantly, how do I stop doing it ever again? After a lot of reading and thinking, I did it. I found the strategies and approaches to parenting that keeps the bright sparks within our kids shining, and I'm going to share them with you. For the past 20 years, I've helped thousands of parents reach their goal of having happy, cooperative kids in peaceful, connected families. I am Linda Clement, Thrive parenting coach and author of 3 books about parenting. This is for you if you are a loving parent who has felt dismay watching your little one's hurt or angry reaction to losing a battle of wills with you and your own dark feelings when you win at their expense. This is for you if you're a caring parent who worries about your child's happiness while you're alone in the dark at night. I know that you're here because you want to retain or reignite that bright spark in your child so you can have happy, cooperative kids. You want to learn how to work with your kids so they grow up happy and productive and cooperative and engaged in their lives, wanting to have your company because they feel good about their relationship with you. You want to start using strategies that really work to keep your kids naturally cooperative and happy, and you want to feel like a successful parent even in the dark of the night alone so that you can rest or daydream instead of worrying. The information you're about to get in the next hour or so will begin to transform your family, your relationship with your kids, and put your feet on the path towards a cooperative, tightly knit family. If you take on the challenge of doing the hard work and take the work into your real life afterwards. To get the most from what you're investing in this workshop, please take notes, participate throughout, and watch the replay later to catch anything you miss. If you sit through the next hour hoping the changes will comfortably and automatically make themselves just because you show up, that won't work. There are no magic pills you can take that will make meaningful change in any part of your life. So let's show up, step up, and start up the path towards reaching your highest goals and dreams. I promise that in the next 60 minutes or so, I will give you as much information as I can to make a huge impact on your family. I know that the parents who are really eager to develop the skills to reach their highest goals will want even more information and support. Don't worry, I've got you. Before I wrap up, I promise I will share that with you, how you can get more. Is that okay? Dark times are coming. Have you ever noticed how common it is in parenting talks when asking for advice and support from others, how nice everybody is? I love when I have to change mice because I've got two computers here. I try to do it with the first one. Oh, that's just me. Parents live and online ask things like this. And kind, loving, gentle, helpful people jump in with things like, "You've got this. You're an amazing parent." Or you express your dismay or guilt over a tactic that you tried that has nasty side effects. And kind, loving, gentle people with helpful things say, "They'll be fine. Kids are resilient. They survive. Don't be so hard on yourself. They'll forget all about it. They'll outgrow it. They'll forgive you." Years ago, a friend of mine went through a rather nasty divorce. And during that divorce, she went through a course called the divorce course. And while they were sitting around in this group, one of the women started sobbing uncontrollably, and another woman tried to give her a tissue and a hug. And the guy who was leading the divorce course grabbed her and took her, the woman who tried to hug her, out into the hall and said, "You are actively interfering with this woman's ability to process her emotions about this. And you're not doing it for her, you're doing it for you. You're trying to stop her from crying because it makes you uncomfortable." And that's the same thing that's happening online and live when people say, "Just stop having this emotion near me, please. You're amazing. We're fantastic." Okay, you're amazing. You're fantastic. But what we really need is somebody who can hear us when we say, "This is not working." We need to say, "Stop trying to make me feel better and give me a strategy that works." This is where you find out that nearly everybody simply believes this: there is no fix. It's just how it is. It can't work. Kids are naturally ogres. There's nothing you can do except these few hard and ineffective things that barely work. The fatalism and the defeatist beliefs, the powerlessness and the solidarity, we're all equally guilty. So if we cheer each other on indiscriminately, we can patch it over with paper and tape. It's just not helpful. Back in the 90s, there was an author who wrote about healthy marriages, and she used this funny prop on stage to talk about what happens in so many families. Here's your 3 kids. They're all healthy and lovely plants that have been nourished with what they need: watered, given light, pruned, repotted as needed, fertilized. They're beautiful and lush. And then she brought out a plant in serious need of help. So here's the kid who won't listen to anyone. And then she brought out a pot with a stick and a few dried leaves and said, "It's dead. This relationship is too far gone to rescue, but the participants are not owning up." Whoops, back up, back up. So she put a bow on the plant. Everything's fine. Those helpful, nice, kind, justifying, defending, freaked out people are trying to stick a bow on your parenting so you all have the same bows. Merry Christmas. It feels great for a few minutes. Like, yes, I am part of Team Amazing Parents, and all these amazing parents validate that I am doing fine. And then in the dark of the night, you worry and you can see the tiny telling details popping up. The anxious or determined child who cannot be convinced that school is fun or dentists are fun or toothbrushing is fun, even with sickly sweet flavored toothpastes and cartoon characters on every available surface. The eyes that look at you with hurt and weariness when you walk into the room. The happy, proud smiles when they've brought you a posy of freshly picked flowers and all the leaves off of your baby lilac tree that will now die. And the smiles that are turned to defeated sorrow and downcast eyes when you freak out because the lilac tree is going to die. So you're probably wondering why I'm trying so hard to make you feel uncomfortable about your family when you came here to learn how to get happy and cooperative kids. My favorite expert on trauma says that there are 2 things we must do to heal our shame and hurt in our lives. And it applies here as well. The first one is we have to grow up. And in order to do that, we have to do the second one, which is accept reality as it actually is, without any of the glitter or painted on rainbows or baseless reassurance that everything is fine, because we know it's not fine. And we can't fix what we keep shoveling toxic positivity onto. Here's your pretty red bow. This part hurts. I did warn you. The thing about this kind of pain, though, is that it's called clean pain. It's like a cut with a very sharp knife. Hurts like a very bad word, but it's easy to heal. It's not the jagged, half-healed, slightly infected wounds that the bows are covering. The pain that's avoided until it stabs again, that's too complicated to join the edges back up neatly. And if it ever really heals, it's going to make a big lumpy scar. That's dirty pain from the wounds that we pick up at night when we are criticizing ourselves or trying to force ourselves back to sleep, remembering the platitudes of Team Amazing that somehow feel really weak and irrelevant in the dark of the night. As I said, dark times are coming. Now, I love you and I want to help, I really do. But if I keep talking the whole time, I will leave feeling great about myself and you might leave feeling great about me, but we are not here for me. Fair warning is fair preparation, and this is a workshop. So you're going to get to do some work. Let's take a look at the first exercise. In your journal or wherever, please answer these questions. Feel free to screenshot it. I nearly ended the meeting. That would have been funny. If you can't read, if you can't share, if you can't keep up with the questions or write fast enough. That one. Use that mouse. Oh, right. I forgot about that. Be nice to your kids' parents. They're nice people and they deserve kindness. And after that, scroll back down here. Not quite sure how I did that. There we go. All right. Pretty sure I turned that off. How did I miss a slide? There's a slide missing. I'm going to escape this because that is not right. Where did the one go? This one. That's the one I want. Answer these two questions in your journal, in the chat too, if you like. And I will give you 3 or 4 minutes to do that. Between kid pickups. Let me know when you're finished. Like Alex isn't playing. I'm not writing down anything. We want them to remember. Okay. Let's go stop that. All right. How did you feel about this question? You can unmute yourself and answer. How did you feel about the question?
I don't know, really. It's a tough one. There's a lot of things that you want, but trying to articulate them all into one concise statement is pretty challenging. And also, and like prioritizing them too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that second question was easy or hard to answer. I'm still trying to use the wrong mouse. That's good. On a scale of 1 to 10, how close to the goal do you think you have been working?
Some days are better than others.
Minus what?
I mean,
I'd say number 1, we're closer to like I'd say like 6 out of 10.
Awesome.
yeah.
I mean, they're still really young, so we've got lots of time still to create that environment and make sure that they appreciate it and they understand it and they get to experience it. Number two, I would say we're probably more like 3 or 4, just because they're so young. Like, I don't think that they don't,
Can't teach them
you
anything.
can't teach, they can't really comprehend that right now. So
Yeah.
it's not that
Yeah.
we're not doing a good job of it. I just think it's a long way to go still.
I think that they're a couple of years off of being able to. Do you know Erin Scarlett, who runs Fountainhead? She was concerned
Sounds
about
good.
her under 2-year-old. I think he was 18 or 20 months old at the time. And she was concerned because he wasn't rational. And I told her that, they're not rational until they're like 5 or 6 at least. And before that, they're just, kind of little crazy maniacs, and you can't really talk them into anything or talk them out of anything, or never have an argument about whether or not Aerosmith is a girl because they have long hair. It's not an argument worth having. And if you can sort of keep it in mind that they're not really rational enough to argue with when you're, arguing with them, it can really help calm things down. She said it was a lifesaver. There's an amazing number of things. She's just like, nope, he's not rational yet. I'm not going to bother. It's all
Well,
the
even just
difference in the
that
world.
tip that you gave us the other day about how she can't do a don't, like she's already been so much better, like 100% better. Like, leave that alone, Rye. Okay. She just walks away and we're like,
What just happened here?
last week it was like, don't do that. Don't do that. Stop touching it. Rye, don't touch the blinds. Rye, stop touching the blinds. And then like snap. And then she's screaming and then I'm crying. And it's just like, why won't she listen?
She hasn't got anything to listen to. You haven't been clear at all. Is there anything you discovered doing these 2 questions that surprised you?
It's not surprising. I just know that like Alex and I have been going through like where we have been getting frustrated, and like sometimes it's in front of her and it's not on purpose, but we realize that like bothers me, like with number 1, because I don't want, like, I remember my parents fighting all the time and yelling and bickering, and like I don't want them to remember that, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, to have that happy, peaceful house around them, that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Super important. Oh, now we've gone backwards again. Can we go frontwards? There we go. Yes, this is the place where this one belongs. Be nice to your kids' parents because they're nice and they deserve kindness. Don't beat yourself up too much about this because you can only start where you are, and it's very important to be yourself and to recognize that as you get better, you will do better. We can really sink into a hole of all the things we should have done and all the things we shouldn't have done. But as a friend, a roommate pointed out, the only place shoulds belong is in the should have been, which was the label on their garbage can. When you know better, you do better, and knowing what your real goals are is a great step towards doing better. So now that's number 1 on our 5 keys to happy and cooperative children. Clarify your goals. At this point, I bet you're thinking, I thought I was going to find out what to do instead of threats and bribes when little Jamal doesn't do his homework. That means it's time for me to come clean about something that most of my clients figure out eventually. This is never going to be about what to do when little Maria won't eat her peas. This is a genuinely sideline issue. I look at it this way. If you can figure out a system where you can sell wonky seeds, the kind that sort of grows sometimes, but not very well, and always kind of twisted and prone to disease, and then sell special water for its problems and fertilizer to fix its absorption issues and treatment for the mildew that was baked onto it, the plant survives barely, but it is sold with a guarantee that you will be selling pre-scheduled solutions for a couple of decades. So the seed seller gets to harvest from the same plant years and years and years and years. It's called farming. That's what a lot of experts do with great confidence and no small measure of, oh, those poor silly parents haven't got a clue, the poor old dears. They swoop in and sort of fix a presenting problem a little bit with something that is guaranteed to cause more problems later. Because to mix a metaphor horribly, they're building a foundation out of sand. The sand, or the wonky seed that can't grow healthy, is that they're selling the whole deranged idea that a parent's primary job from birth to launch is to control their kids with tactics and strategies and tools in a toolbox that they just happen to sell for ever increasing amounts of money. You loved the book, here's the seminar. You enjoyed the seminar, here's a 2-week program. You loved the program, here's one for toddlers and teenagers and 4-year-olds and tantruming 6-year-olds and explosive 8-year-olds and oh my God, tweens. And the month-long retreat for dealing with the dreaded teens in a summer camp for the kids while you're there. I noticed this first with a religious-based program that did a lot of advertising when my kids were young. They had the answer to all the sleeping and baby woes. The solution would straighten up those misbegotten children and guarantee they'd fly right. As the twig is bent, so grows the tree. And still not working, hey? You must be doing something wrong. Here's the teen program. I knew people took all of it, and somehow they still had teens who didn't listen or obey, and kids who wouldn't do their homework and chores, be seen and not heard, or whatever it was they were convinced children were supposed to be here on earth for. As you may have already guessed, I find this a little ineffective, however lucrative it may be, so I won't play. My way is nowhere near as lucrative, but parents get so much more out of coaching when it's hunting for the whole answer rather than farming for a lot of opportunities to buy a bunch of stuff that barely works. I know how much parents would love to have a know-it-all sell them the playbook, so when the opposition does a back hook overlay, they know to do a round back understep so they can win. Parents are supposed to be on the same side as their children. This game can't be won the way it's played. Okay, now I'll lay off the metaphors. I'm going to tell you a story. This is one of my favorite stories of horrible things that happened when one of the people I knew was seriously invested in the do this, do that, ta-da program. And they had a redheaded girl who was the absolute exponential value of her two redheaded parents. You have not met stubborn until you meet these three redheads. The parents were absolutely convinced that it was their job to direct and cajole and command and coerce and control this little girl into exactly how she was supposed to be, according to all those rules that all people must follow. And the girl was 100% down to react as people do, even in the face of mortal danger, to resist feeling oppressed, unheard, and unseen with every fiber of her body. What I love about this story is I was a total bystander witness. This was a neighbor of a good friend of mine, and I'd already figured this out. If you push humans, they will push back at every age, every time. It's fun to try, and because there's two of you guys here, I'm going to get you to do it. One of you put your hand up. Ashley, put your hand up. Alex, put your hand on Ashley's hand. Ashley, push him. Push harder. Push harder. Oh, now see, he's taken Tai Chi. He's a cheater bug. Usually, even with quite little kids, unless they're trained, usually they'll push back. So you can actually hold your whole body weight against even a kid who's like 3. He's just a cheater. So the girl didn't do anything that mom wanted her to do. I don't remember if it was.
I guess he knows who's the boss.
So the girl didn't do something mom ordered her to do. I don't know if it was finish her peas or do her homework or put her socks in the hamper. I don't know. Bad child didn't. So she got to sent to her room in good socially accepted order. In the room, all by herself with her stuff, she very quietly took her craft scissors and very carefully cut into very tiny pieces the bridesmaid's dress she was to wear in her aunt's wedding the next day. If you are going to get into a war with a child whose entire self is invested in not losing, you will suffer. I suggest an alternative, starting with clarifying your goals. When you really know where you really want to go with your kids and their adulthood, it's a whole lot easier to get anywhere near it. And as you know, I have yet to meet a parent who has a child so furious that they diligently ruin a major part of their aunt's wedding anywhere on their list of goals for their children. Enough about goals. I suspect it's just about time for you guys to do some more working. Take a fresh piece of paper or a new page in your journal and make a line down the middle of the page so you have 2 columns, and then make a line across the middle so you have 4 quadrants. In the top and bottom left quadrant, that would be your left. Is this your left? I can't tell. In the top and bottom left quadrants, and in the chat if you feel like it, briefly write down the last 2 things you asked your child to do that didn't work. One situation in each section: homework, chores, bathing, brushing teeth, going to bed, whatever. For each of them, as close as you can remember, also write down what you asked, the actual words, including any or else, or explanations, or so you can kind of conditions. If you remember a bit of the situation, what they were doing, where you were in relation to them, in the same room, at the table, in a different room, and your tone of voice. Finally, and don't worry about remembering all these questions, there will be a slide for this. Can you remember what you were thinking before you asked or after they responded or ignored you? Just a brief synopsis of your reaction. You may have to continue each quadrant onto the second page, but keep the top information with the top section and the bottom information with the bottom situation, so you can keep clear what you're dealing with as we go through the exercise. There's the list of things to answer. Have you done 2 of them, or is that just the first one?
We did 2.
Okay. Stop
I
sharing.
just shared one.
That's good. We don't need to go over both of them. It's okay. Oh, I'll stop that before the makes it so you can't hear anything. Before we get to the next few keys of happy and cooperative kids, I'd like to pause for a moment and give you some information that took me way too long to discover. Effective communication requires engaging your audience first. Not last, not later, not some other time, first. Engaging kids is not really any different than engaging any other audience. If you've done public speaking or effective management training, you've probably heard of WIIFM, the thing your audience or employees need to hear before they listen to anything you have to tell them, including directions or instructions. WIIFM is what's in it for me. It's not as simple, you'll get paid, because you already have lifetime proof that rewards and bribes don't really work. It has to be what is in it for me. An M&M isn't in it for anyone, not even for peeing in the potty. A bonus if you condition isn't in it for anyone, not even for a top salesman. What's in it for a child learning to use the toilet is self-mastery, self-control, and doing what the adults do, all of which are internally motivating and quite outside a parent's control. What's in it for employees is self-esteem, pride in their work, the fun of being at the top, making beneficial changes in other people's lives, or making a positive impact on the environment, or whatever blows their hair back. Can you see the list of internally motivated things are quite entirely outside of anyone's control? You can't pour a bucket of self-esteem over an employee, even with praise, any more than you can pour a cup of self-mastery over a child for complying with their latest request. When you have identified WIIFM for your children, then you understand their motivation. And that is something really powerful to work with. Work with is a phrase I'll revisit later. I've been talking a lot again, so it's got to be time for you to work. Looking back on your situation that was in the last exercise, both of them, is there any indication of what's in it for me awareness? Yes or no? Oh, good. Awesome. Make a note of that in the right quadrant next to the situation. Yes or no to WIIFM awareness. Also, you may have noticed an opportunity that you can see in how to alter your request next time. Make a note of that in the right quadrant as well. If you'd like to share any missed opportunities here that you have identified in the chat already, your discovery might help people watching this later. Would you do something differently there? Yes. So WIFM kind of applies to everything, especially the number 2 key in happy and cooperative kids. Connect before correct. When I was having my kitchen renovated, the designer shared a wonderful phrase for, let's call it, less than stellar design that was already in place. She said, this is an opportunity space. So instead of thinking, what did mom do wrong? Let's shift to thinking, what is the opportunity space here for something more effective? As I said pretty early on, I'm not going to tell you how to get little Safi to wear a coat when it's cold. What I'm going to do is take your brain out of your head, turn it over, spin it 180 degrees and put it back in. That is, I'm going to give you a totally different perspective on the entire issue so you can see more effective tools as a parent and have happier and more cooperative kids as well. So let's talk about another opportunity space in the situation you've already written about. I'm easily amused, and one of the things that I laugh a lot about is parents doing the same thing that isn't working 80 times in a row. Even when my kids were little, I loved sitting on a park bench somewhere near another parent who was sitting on a park bench, who was yelling, get over here right now, get over here, get over here, get over here, get over here, like a million times. Now, my dad was a fantastically successful professional football coach from the couch in our living room. And sadly, it didn't affect the players' ability. Shouting at people who are engaged in other things is ineffective and it doesn't direct them. When you look at your situation in your journal, what indications do you see that you had your child's full attention at all before making the request? Please share in the chat and make a note in the right quadrant. Attention gained before directing, yes or no? This is an opportunity space to notice when you're not getting your kids' attention before engaging your audience. While we live fully present in our own minds, I'm inclined to share an observation of a friend. She noticed that another friend was inclined to have a complete spaz by the time she said something like, put your laundry off your floor in your bedroom into the laundry. She noticed the chores needed to be done probably instantly. First sock hits the ground, she's like, ugh, that belongs in the laundry bin. So by the time there was 35 pieces of clothing on the floor, she was having an international emergency in her head. So the first time she said it out loud, she said it screaming. So she goes from 0 to a million, according to everybody else around her, because they haven't experienced that buildup. It's very unhelpful. So key number 3 to happy and cooperative kids is make sure you have your full attention before giving instructions or directions, and give them instructions early rather than late. If you don't want the sock on the floor to be joined by 32 of its friends, say, please put the sock in the hamper after you've gotten their attention. Now I want to get down to the nitty-gritty of why a lot of parents' instructions fall on deaf ears, even when they have the full attention of their engaged audience. A friend of mine was sitting in our living room, and her 2-year-old was sitting on her lap with one of those little Dr. Seuss books, the hard ones. And her daughter was hitting her in the face with it over and over and over again. And what my friend said was, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that, which was interesting to watch. But my brain's auto reply was, that's okay, I do. This is not helpful information. Often in an effort to be polite, parents fail to give anything like instructions or directions at all. What, by the way, was this 2-year-old expected to do with I don't like that? Fly, change into a squirrel, or eat her spinach? Let's look now at your situation from earlier for the opportunity space here. Were your directions or instructions actually clear as directions or instructions? Type yes or no in the chat. This can be a really long answer. Yes, we think. Okay. Make a note in the right quadrant next to each situation. Was it clear instructions or directions? I hear a lot of parents these days saying no thank you to the things that their kids are doing over there by themselves. And since the child isn't offering the parents anything, I don't understand what they're supposed to do about that either. It sounds polite, but it's kind of ineffective. Another phrase I hear parents say these days is, we don't hit our brother. And I think, well, who's this we? Do you have a mouse in your pocket? You might not hit our brother, but clearly the child being done this does. And often polite translates into fiction in the real world. And really, if you think about it, you say, we don't hit our brother. What's the child supposed to do with that information? Change their hair color, brush their teeth? No one can don't hit their brother, as we talked about earlier. They can keep their hands to themselves. Oh, that's another phrase that needs a translator, because what does keep your hands and to yourself actually mean? Do they usually share their hands with others? Can they leave them on the stairs? English is just so weird. And we have these very strange phrases that we use often without thinking about them. And directions, in order to be followed, need to assume that your child is, even pretending your child is willing to, they at least need to be directive or instructive. Think of super simple, direct, clear language of precisely what you want the child to do. I thought teaching my children to speak precisely was fun. So as a result, I had a 4 or 5-year-old come to me with the bread, the ketchup, the mayonnaise, and a knife and say, I want all this on a sandwich, not the knife. Because that's the kind of thing I would have done to her. It's a lot of mental gymnastics to start with when you come to realize how unclear most of our English instructions really are. So the key, number 4, to happy and cooperative kids is to give clear, simple instructions. This brings me to the next issue of asking kids what to do and expecting them to actually do it. Asking. Beyond the point of trying to be polite by not actually giving instructions, a lot of parents try to be polite by asking their kids questions that kids are supposed to know they're not allowed to answer. Child happily playing in the water in the toilet, parent comes along and says, honey, do you want to put your pajamas on? And the child goes on playing in the water with or without answering the question with the obvious answer, which is, since I'm free to put my pajamas on anytime I want. No, obviously. When my oldest was 11, she decided I didn't know how to do laundry properly, so she took over the job. And as a result, we had a couple of funny instances in our house. My husband at the time was in the military, and he was always struggling with how to give orders in a polite way. Like, he was always constantly asked people to do things instead of telling them to do things. He'd give somebody an order and end the sentence with okay, but he'd go up to her and say, can you do a load of laundry? And even if she didn't say it out loud, her answer was obviously, yes, I have that ability. And she carried on doing whatever it was she'd been doing before. He got a lot frustrated about this. And I just said, hey, hon, laundry needs doing today. And she'd do it the next time she was passing. I don't think he ever figured it out. If you don't want your child to answer a question, don't ask a question. That's key number 5. Don't ask a question that isn't allowed to be answered. Since we began, I shared with you 5 keys to getting happy and cooperative kids without threats or bribes. This is going to make a tremendous difference for you and your family. With all this information I have shared and the work you have done, you will leave here today feeling far more confident that you know what wasn't working before and why it wasn't working, so you can go back into your real life with a gentle and effective way of workshopping your opportunity spaces. Just as you did today with the 2 situations from your real life, you can see what wasn't effective and discover what would have been, and that now you know better, you can do better. You have learned the steps to giving effective directions that kids are happy to cooperate with, including the parameters that really help them to listen and understand your directions and instructions. You have a strong foundation of what it takes to make families happy and cooperative, and the beliefs that form that foundation, and all in less than 45 minutes. What would your family be like if, instead of doing things to get your kids to, you were effectively and happily working towards your shared goals? Take a few moments right now. Close your eyes if you're not supervising small children. And imagine your family 6 months or a year from now. You're not squabbling over chores. What are you doing instead? You're getting ready to go somewhere with happy and cooperative kids. What is that like? What are your family dynamics like if your kids are cooperative with you and amongst each other. You have family game night with kids happily spending peaceful time at home. If they're not fussing and fighting about bedtime or cleaning up, what would that be like for you? Are you traveling with grandparents with kids happily helping with packing and luggage or keeping the campsite or hotel room neat? Knowing they're not going to tear away in the airport or torment each other in the pool, where would you go? Imagine you're not lying in bed at night worrying that your kids will never learn to care for themselves or their homes. What are you lying in bed thinking about while you're awake? Your child's successful future? Your grandchildren? Having your kids grow up and take you to lunch? Would you eagerly hold a dinner party for 10 guests, knowing that your kids would be sociable, polite, and helpful, and be happy to hang out with your guests? You can open your eyes again. All of these are very real possibilities, and all of them are taken from real life. Although the dinner party was only for 8 people, it was 7 courses because I'm slightly insane and I have a lot of dishes. And with the help I got, was unexpected and completely not ordered. After the first course was eaten, I stood up to clear and to bring in the next course, and silently, without any warning or comment, both of my children stood up and helped and continued to help for the remainder of the meal. We had never had a dinner like that. We didn't talk about it at all beforehand. It was one of those magical, spontaneous, happy things that happens when we are working with rather than doing to our kids. You really can expect this experience to be perfectly ordinary in your life as well. And yet in reality, you're still sitting here and your kids still don't want to brush their teeth or feed the dog every day. And that idyllic life is just a dream. So you're going to step away from the computer today and be with the real people in the real situation you actually live in. A family with conflict and resistance and parenting tactics that push people away from each other instead of towards each other. You have a lot more information and understanding than you did earlier, but there are still a few steps between you and your goal of happy and cooperative kids. One of those steps is a huge issue in parenting practices in our world. A while ago, I mentioned that I'd be talking about work with again later, and now it's later. A fundamental shift in perspective that is most important to understand if you want happy and cooperative kids is to see the difference between doing to and working with. Most of the ineffective techniques, including bribes and rewards, are done to children to get them to comply with our wishes or preferences or rules or instructions. The situations that you wrote down earlier, if you scan over those, do you have a sense that your whole approach was based on working with your child for your family to succeed in meeting your real goals, or something else? Is this another opportunity space for your family? Type yes or no in the chat. Yay! Make a note in the right quadrant next to each. Working with your kids towards your goals or no? Let's go all the way back to the beginning for the moment. If you examine your real life situations, what would you say your main goal in that situation was? Let's take a few minutes to sit with that and write it in the right-hand quadrant and the chat if you like. Is your goal to get her to eat about her being empathic and compassionate when she's older? Was it fun? Yeah. There's a piece of resistance. So she doesn't have a hunger spasm. That's important. Hunger spasms are uncomfortable to experience as well as to eat, or as well as to live with. There's a piece of resistance that I frequently encounter that suggests parents that are working with rather than doing to their kids in reaching their own goals is phrased in a few different ways. But these are some of them. Parents often say, I'm afraid they'll get away with something, or they can't walk all over me, and I can't let them win. All of these are based on a parents must control kids philosophy, and it's naturally parents versus kids. Please be deeply suspicious of these beliefs. Why would parents be opposed to their own children? And how do kids win when they oppose the people who are big and strong enough to kill them on a whim? I'm not suggesting you'd ever kill your kids, but kids instinctively know how much they need their parents on their side. But we forget this. Also, please be aware of how alluring these beliefs are and how strongly you may actually hold them. This is a huge mindset problem. While we all faithfully believe that we live in a dog-eat-dog world and kids need to be toughened up to handle it, and it's filled with competition, in reality, we have a very cooperative society. We rely on the goodwill and kindness of total strangers in every aspect of our lives, from housing to eating to having a computer to watch this workshop. We don't make or even know what parts are involved in making and transporting 99% of what we use in an average day. And somehow, when it comes to the people we love the most, we're supposed to be competing. It doesn't make sense. Your kids' instinctive goals are remarkably similar to your goals for them. They wish to master themselves in the world they find themselves in. Once you can see that you share the same goals, they really do want to be happy and get along with you just as much as you want them to be happy and cooperative. It's much easier to leave behind the problematic beliefs about kids and families and see the truth. Rebellion is normal in our world because it is a completely rational response to being pushed and ordered around. In the real world right now, what you are experiencing as the core frustration is working against your kids rather than with them. I promised at the outset that I was here to help parents who need and want more, and for the parents who are really eager to develop the skills to reach their goals and who want information and support, I've got you. I promised to share what you can do to get even more, and I can do that now. If you are an eager parent who wants to make the changes necessary to get happy and cooperative kids as fast as possible, I have an invitation. I have opened a few spaces in my calendar over the coming week for some of you to be able to book a free family clarity call. After this call, you will have far more clarity about what your family needs from you as a parent and what the next steps for you will look like on your journey towards creating the happy and cooperative family of your dreams. We will identify your skills and information that will have the most impact on your family the fastest, so you'll be able to confidently face the real world challenges as your growing children present themselves. The clients who are the most successful in creating the common cooperative families they desire are those who quickly take the opportunity to take action and make real changes. They strive towards becoming their best selves in every area of their lives. They don't hesitate to grab a new idea that resonates and put it into practice. If you want to lock the changes you want to make into your life, I invite you to book a free family clarity call right now. As I am only one person, I can only work with a few confidential clients at a time. So I can only open 10 spaces on my calendar in the next couple of weeks. I currently have time slots on Tuesday evenings between 7 and 9 and Friday and Saturday mornings between 9 and noon. If you're really eager to get your free family clarity call and none of those times work for you or your time zone, please contact me directly and let me know what your schedule allows. So grab your time slot right now by clicking the link that I forgot to copy and paste in the chat. Let's see where that lives. There we go. Now, before we get to Q&A, I have one last tip that is very important to help kids happily cooperate in our families. Like parents who eagerly put into practice what they know will work for them, children too have a deep desire to make the most of their lives. Far from being resistant to change, they want to do everything they can do as fast as they can. A friend's daughter, when she was about 3.5, got tired of her mom dressing her. And she stood there absolutely naked one day, refusing to be dressed, and said, "I can do it mine own self." We can tap into our kids' natural internal agenda to master themselves in the world they find themselves. It takes about 20 years to accomplish that because our world is nearly as complicated as ourselves are. And all that learning relies on a lot of development. We can retain our kids' natural eagerness to do everything we do using the tools we do with them, like our phones, by not squashing their eagerness. We squash their eagerness with things that they're not ready for. We can retain our kids' natural eagerness to do everything we want them to be able to do by not pushing their desire away. We push their desire away when we use "it's faster to do it myself" and "you don't do it good enough or my way" as reasons to keep them out of our adult work. Our brains change a lot throughout our lives. So what a 6-year-old can do has little to do with what a 12-year-old can, and even less to do with what a 20-year-old can. So another piece of advice that is super important and enough to be the bonus number 6 key to happy and cooperative kids is make sure your expectations align with their abilities. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself now. They're workshopping their questions by themselves. They're discussing what the questions are allowed to be. Yes. You're muted. I can't hear anything you have to say.
Lots of questions.
Lots of questions. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
I don't know. I was saying to Alex, I'm like, it's like we know what to do, but then when the moment happens, we revert back to like old behaviors. I was just saying to him, like, I noticed with Rye, if you accidentally react like strongly, she usually has a delay in her reaction. I'm like, laugh or something, or like make a funny face at her, because it actually like snaps her out of going this way, and then she goes this way, and you're like, oh, mommy didn't mean to say it like that or whatever. I don't know. I just noticed that in the last couple of days, but we're like really struggling with her eating because she had like a really weird episode the other night where we're not sure. I'm still going to call the doctor, but we're not sure if it was like she had a panic attack or her blood sugar dropped like way too low, but she started like breathing really hard and didn't talk for like 7 minutes probably. Like I was ready to call like 911 because she was just like, she was hitting Alex in the face and kicking him and breathing like, and then until she bit herself and she snapped out of it, like really hard bite, and then she snapped out of it.
Wow.
But she
That
will
sounds
not
like-
eat dinner. Like she's not eating dinner. And so that's why we're always trying to figure out ways to get her to eat her dinner, which clearly we know, like bribing, all that, we like, it doesn't work. We keep trying it because we're afraid that like that's going to happen again.
Yeah.
And every night she's hungry and she didn't eat enough supper, and bedtime lasts an extra hour. And so we're just like beating our heads against the wall, trying to figure out like, how can we get her to eat without telling her to eat?
Right. So are you still doing the snacks where she can reach them?
Like when she's at daycare, there's no problems eating because obviously it's routine. They eat at the same time. At home, yeah, I said to Alex, I'm like, I put food out like all day, and she didn't touch any of it. All of the stuff that like I know she likes to eat, she just doesn't touch it when we're
Is she
home.
eating first thing when she wakes up?
She does. That's the only meal that she will eat decent, is the first meal.
What is she eating
Yeah.
for breakfast?
We either make like scrambled eggs and toast, or she'll have like a boiled egg with toast, or we make those Kodiak cakes, and we make them like higher protein with like peanut butter on top and like berries. Or she loves oats, and I put like hemp seeds and walnuts and berries and that kind of stuff in them, or yogurt. But
Like
then,
high fat yogurt or? regular
yeah,
yogurt?
like the 2% Oiko
yeah.
yogurt or whatever. She usually just
10,
eats
10 would be better.
10. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Roman loves yogurt
It
too.
sounds like she's not getting enough protein and enough fat early enough. So
She's
that
definitely
she's
not getting enough protein, and we're
looking for carbs, and then her blood sugar's doing that thing.
yeah, because she's eating like her favorite snack is like chores and raisins, so she asked for that again today. So I added walnuts, almonds, and like pumpkin seeds or something to it. She didn't have an issue with it. She loves all those, but we know she's not getting enough protein, and we don't know how to like, because she's really not into eating meat. Like she will, but not
Will she eat meat
You're
for
welcome.
breakfast?
meat for breakfast.
Mhm.
I don't know. Never tried.
Steak and eggs, sure.
Steak and eggs, it's a good idea. When my youngest was waking up hangry, and then it would get worse all day long until she exploded at 4:30 in the afternoon. The naturopath actually recommended meat for breakfast, and she
Oh.
said like something high fat, like chicken wings, like not like chicken.
She loves meat on the bone. Like she loves ribs, which we don't eat very much, but she loves ribs, and sure. And she loves like chicken, like on the bone.
Yeah.
So we probably should just make more of the stuff. That's when I said to Alex, I'm like, do I just like suck at cooking? Are we making everything she hates? Like last night, Granny cooked and she made like rice and fish and whatever. Didn't eat like nothing, but she loves salmon. She'll
Salmon
eat
for
salmon.
breakfast is a good idea.
And Roman loves salmon. He ate like 10 ounces the other day. It was ridiculous. But yeah, like, so I think now we're trying to force her to eat because we're scared that that's going to happen again. Because that was like,
And of course,
freaked us out so bad.
we've talked before. Like anything you're afraid of is get what she needs. So I seriously recommend something much higher in fat. Probably much right when you're eating a lot of calories and you just need a lot of calories, but she's not eating very much higher protein and fat. Probably for the next year because their appetite. I used to make, get the big flat of chicken wings, make them for dinner. I was literally putting food in her mouth. Otherwise, she's just there. Here, have some chicken wings. If she likes yogurt, try higher fat.
Okay. You keep cutting out, so I'm catching bits and
Oh,
pieces.
sorry. It's probably it's the sound. Oh, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, if you can make sure that she's eating higher fat, like higher fat yogurt, 10% at least. If you can get
Okay.
30%, like you're not at this point worried about her putting down too many fat cells. You're worried about brain development.
Okay.
Which is probably why she really likes them. And if you sort of, okay, you can have raisins and Cheerios, you can have 4 and 4 and a big handful of that. Like, no, there's Cheerios and raisins in there.
They're in there, I swear.
2 cups of walnuts. Because nuts are a fantastic choice. That's a really good idea.
And we give like high protein waffles with peanut butter, and then I sprinkle hemp seeds. That's like a lot of time she eats at school because when I do send like chicken, she sometimes like eats. If she's at school, she'll eat it. But if it's at home, it's like she knows there's other options. So
that's actually the other thing, because she doesn't need very many calories and she doesn't have a very big stomach. She knows she can hold out. She can wait. I'll be hungry. I'll wait until the good stuff comes out because she knows it's there. So if it suddenly wasn't there anymore, you open all the cupboards, you're like, it's not here. It's gone. We throw it out. We donated it. It's all given to other people.
Yeah, like we haven't been buying Annie's since, like you said, stop buying that. And I'm trying not to buy too many of the things for Roman. But when he's teething, those num-nums are good for him. But I just hide them up higher now so she can't see them.
Yeah. Well, and buying the smallest packages rather than having, the sort of Costco size stuff so that there's like 3. Baby!
Who's that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You little guy. Did you just strap Riley to the wall or something?
No, Granny's here. She's got Ryan.
Okay.
Yeah, she's just over there. You can't see her. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's like our biggest struggle right now is the eating thing. And
yeah, most of that is about not getting enough protein and fat early in the day, because then that sort of does that weird thing to their sugar crashes and then they're not hungry, in spite of the fact that they need to eat more than they did in the first place. So if you can get more protein and fat into her really early, then it'll moderate it and it'll last longer. So the next time you offer her food, she might be hungry as opposed to starving already.
yeah, because at like 8 o'clock or 8:30, she's hungry. And sometimes we're like, is she actually hungry? Or is she just doesn't want to go to bed?
Well, and for that you feed her. And if she eats, then she was hungry.
I know, so I said to Alex, because like the night that she was saying she was hungry, we didn't feed her. Then she had a meltdown. Then that thing happened. So then I'm like, now we didn't give her food and that happened. So was she actually hungry? Like she says it every single night.
Yeah.
But likely she might be because she doesn't eat dinner every single night.
Yeah. Lots of people have, a friend of mine called it bed lunch. It was the last thing in the day that would give the kids something to eat. Now it was usually Cheerios in her house. I wouldn't recommend that. Hard-boiled eggs or something. Nuts, olives if she eats them. Anything that's like higher in fat and higher in
Olives, her like favorite food is olives. I send olives in her lunch. The teachers are probably like, what? Like I send like a big container of olives.
I used to know a little kid whose her favorite foods were olives and pickled eggs.
She loves
I
all.
can't even imagine what her diapers smelled like.
Yeah, she's got some pretty good like poops happening too.
Yeah. That's pretty loud food.
Yeah.
Any additional questions?
I don't think. Yeah, we're going to singing. I don't think so. She's like, I don't know. The only other thing we're dealing with is like she always wants to be on her tablet or TV lately, and we don't know. We're trying to say yes more because we feel like the more we say no, the more she wants her tablet. So we've been doing like short timed intervals.
Yeah.
We don't know if that's right or not, but
I think the trick with that is to either don't charge it very often so it dies. And they say, oh, it died. We'll have to charge it again. Like let it die. Like natural limitations are slightly easier than sort of having to police it. And you can even sort of negotiate like, okay, you can have this much time and set a timer and then put it where nobody can reach it. So she knows that it's still the same time that it was when it was set, not like I'm done with you doing this, you crank it back. She didn't see that. Like keep it where she can see it so that she knows that that's the time that's going by. Because the other thing is she doesn't understand time at all. Like tomorrow is somebody else's problem. That exists for somebody else's world. That's all going to happen to somebody she can't even comprehend exists. So a lot of the trick to screen time is, first of all, make sure you're not modeling it. If you want to limit screen time, put your phone on the fridge, and just have other things to do, like play in the water or go outside, or all the things that you can't do at the same time that you're watching the screen, and make it a solitary activity. Like don't feed her in front of the TV, don't have her do artwork or read books in front of the TV, like have it on to watch or off. So if she drifts away, just turn it off without making any comment about it. And if she wants it back on, turn it back on. And if she drifts away again, turn it off. So she gets the idea that it's an activity that you only have while you're looking at it. That kind of will naturally limit it, as well as, go out. You can't take it to the park with you, so don't.
that makes sense because she always asks for it when she's eating lately, and because she eats better, we've been like letting her eat with it.
Yeah. Well, and what you're doing is teaching her to eat mindlessly.
Well,
And that might reduce the conflict at the table, but it doesn't help her get in touch with her body. And quite a lot of empathy and compassion is based on being in touch with what's happening in your own body. The rest of it's building vocabulary, but a lot of it is being familiar with what your body feels like when you're hungry, when you're not hungry anymore. I remember being 10 or 11 and being like super, super hungry after school. And then, it's going to be dinner soon. Like that was ever a reason not to eat. And by the time dinner got there, like an hour and a half later, I was not only not hungry, I was nauseous. Like the whole idea of putting food in my mouth was, oh, get away from me. And then I would get hungry again later, like at 8:30. It's like, well, you weren't hungry for your dinner. You can't eat now.
That sounds like her. And I know I'm like that too. If I get really hungry, then I'm not hungry and I'm just mad and I don't want anything. And then later.
The trick is to
avoid
precede that, to get it before it gets to that point.
Okay.
Just to see it coming in the same way that you try and see the mounting frustration before they actually snap and pop and have a 30-minute temper tantrum or something. Like try to get in under it so that you're sort of anticipating her hunger and she's getting more satisfying, more filling food that lasts longer.
And then like when she is hungry, she's like, I'm hungry, I want to eat. And then we put her at the table with the food. She's like, no, I don't want that food. And then you're like,
oh, children, you kind of want to say, well, kitchen's over there, make yourself what you want.
she probably would try though.
She probably would, and she'd probably enjoy it actually. Little kids like being.
That's a lot actually. We got her own chopping board and she has her own knives. And she likes to eat half of it before. And Alex used to tell her like, stop eating it. I'm like, just let her eat it. She's just basically eating the dinner prior to eating the dinner.
You can't wreck your appetite with your dinner.
Right.
Or, once you eat dinner, your appetite's gone anyway. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
A friend of mine's husband used to do that to her. Like she'd give the kid a carrot while she was making dinner. She's eating before dinner. She's going to ruin her appetite with dinner. It is dinner.
No, that's what I said. I said, well, she's eating what we're having for dinner, so who cares?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time.
You're welcome. I just have one more little bit to share.
Sure.
Just for the, for the sake of the recording. Yeah, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. So if you'd learned all this stuff when you were a teenager, your life would be better. But, and I'm not saying that you're 20 years older than a teenager. The second best time is now. So thanks for coming on time. And remember that Benjamin Hardy said, successful people make their decisions based on where they want to be. I'm actually not able to share the bonus 7 biggest parenting fails in the chat because the file is too big. So I will email it to you after this is over. Thanks so much for coming and bringing your excellent questions, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Linda.
You too.
Thanks, Alex and Ashley.
Bye, Linda. Bye, Ada.
Bye-bye.